video-wise, the VFX that we wanted to talk about, there's certain VFX that an editor is expected to know. And as you can imagine, editors are now expected to know more and more and more and expected to do a lot more. So there are, if you value yourself as an editor and you want to have a future as an editor or you want to be a contributing part of the team, in Hollywood, editors are expected to know how to do green screen work, how to do split screens, how to do warp stabilization, how to do digital zooms. All these are these little tricks and tips that we can't just pass off to an After Effects artist because we can do them ourselves. And I'll show you a couple of quick samples. I know we have about 20 minutes left, so I'm going to balance my time properly so I get across everything. But so, for example, with green screen is tricky, and it's, you know, it can be frustrating. And the goal is obviously to get a really nice green screen like this with Jason feeling the groove. The secret to the green screen is, let's find a, I'll show you in Premiere. We can go to After Effects, but there is definitely, I've finished a lot of green screens in Premiere and passed it on because Ultra Key is really strong. So if you get handed this shot, first of all, you put it above your backdrop, which whatever footage that may be. So you have track 1, you have your background footage, track 2, you have your footage with the green screen. We go to our effects tab, which you can have anywhere you want. I have it over here on the side. And you type in Ultra. Ultra Key is the best option in Premiere Pro that's stock. It just comes with it, that gets you there quickly. Drag Ultra Key to your top layer. It'll fire up here under the effects control for that source clip. And if I scroll down, it'll be at the bottom here. It's really simple. The key color, grab the eyedropper, grab an area that's green, that's somewhat medium green, you know, in the middle there, and you'll have a key that's, you know, pretty close right away. What most people don't do is they'll just start playing it and they'll go, all right, that looks great. You know, it's a nice key. It took one button to click, which it did. And that does look really nice. And I could pass that off in a temp video to say, like, here you go. Look, it's pretty close. But what most people don't do is they go to the output. This is the composite out, meaning it's the mix. What you want to do is go to the alpha output. The alpha channel will show you what kind of key you pulled. And I'll show you very quickly how to adjust it. In the perfect world, everything that is staying in that you want to see will be white and pure white. Everything that you wanted it to be transparent will be black, completely black. You can see here that this is gray in the corners and there's little tiny splotches in the white. All you have to do is go to the first option, matte generation, and if you scroll down to matte generation, it's a little tug, a little push and pull with these sliders. Pedestal, if I raise the pedestal, the blacks get blacker and they disappear, so that's good. If the transparency, if I move the transparency around, you know, I can make it worse, everything's visible, or I can make it better. So it's a little dance that you have to do where you push and pull across these transparent, the highlights to make everything see-through, shadows if you want more blacks. And once you're in a good spot, go back from alpha to composite and you'll see how good of a key you pulled. I can still see through his arm somewhere, but that's a lot cleaner key than before. And I can pass this off, and a director won't be like, why, how come there's jaggy edges? I don't like this. It doesn't look real. I pulled that in about 30 seconds, and that's pretty impressive. And I can check my alpha there. And if I like it, I'm good. If not, I just make a little push-pull game and just move them a little bit and see how it responds. So that's how I would pull a key quickly in Premiere, just using Ultra Key and being able to just quickly look at my mat and then be able to hand that off. And I think that's, you know, that's super impressive to be able to do that. When we're talking split screens, this is something that David Fincher does all the time. I mean, for everyone who doesn't know, like Fincher, 99% of his shots have some kind of visual effect on it, be it warp stabilizer, be it a split screen, be it some kind of green screen or something added. And his goal is to make it invisible. And he relies on his editors in Premiere to be able to do that. And so these are the techniques that, you know, that they use there. So, for example, with a split screen, let's go to their super edit here. There's good ways and bad ways to do it. Obviously, if a split screen, we have to have one shot on top of the other. I'm going to use this doctor and whatever underneath this little couple on the balcony. So with this shot here, the way we do it is previously we had to do a crop filter. And we do a crop filter on the top video and then adjust the edges and stuff. And it was kind of cumbersome. Luckily for us, Premiere has a built-in opacity mask that you can put on any track. So with my top video file selected, I go to the effects control, opacity, I can either draw a mask or use a square or an ellipse. So I want to split this in half. So what I'll do is I'll zoom out a little bit so I can see the edges, because I have to be able to see the edges where I'm going to make my mask. I will use the pen tool and I will just draw a mask around the doctor here. I'm not worried about his hand right now. As soon as I close the mask, then whatever's underneath will play through. So I'll go back to fit. So now we have the doctor on the top and the underlaying clip there. So imagine if this was two people talking, or obviously two different shots at any time. You can now control the placement of this mask, what you want to show, what you want to change. If I slide and slip this clip, I can slip the left clip to a different part. So if this was someone's face and this was another face, I can get two different performances split in half from two different takes. So that way, with the split, I'm able to control it. Now, the other thing that's built in is the mask feather. That's the area in between that you don't want it to be super duper harsh. You can either grab this little selector in the window itself and slide it across to do the feather to make it a little smoother, or you can grab the mask feather here under mask and be able to adjust it. So that way, let me go up to here. That way, when you play this back, it's a little smoother and you can hide stuff in between. A lot of times these shots will be used where there's a backdrop of a wall or a straight line that you can use to hide the edit. But that's the principle about it. The principle is drawing a mask using the opacity of the top clip and then being able to reposition it as needed. If you want to do it on the right side, the left side, you control it and you control the feathering as well. So that's something that we're expected to do a lot as well, which is just, par for the course. In terms of zoom shots, this is used all the time. I use this to add drama and add specific feel to a shot. I'll go back to Jason because the shot has one size, and I will go to dance. I'm going to cut this, and I'll play this for, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll do like 5 seconds, 6 seconds. The average length of a shot. Now his size didn't change at all. He's just there, and the camera is locked off. If I wanted to create motion that zooms in on him, I have two options. I can go to the effects control by loading his shot only in the clip. I can make sure I'm on the first frame. I can hit scale to turn on the animation. It causes a keyframe. I can go downstream to the end and then add another keyframe there and make the size, let's say 150 or whatever. And then I'd also have to turn on position because he got bigger, but he got higher in the frame. And then I'll go back to the first frame and I'll bring him back up. So now by using these 4 keyframes, I have a shot that, let me do it. We go to the first frame again, we play it in real time. So now I got a shot that's zooming in on him over 5 or 6 seconds, but keeping him in the middle of the frame, all based on a static shot that we started with. So that way we have a way to creatively, if you can imagine every time there's some kind of drama show or whatever, someone's saying something important, the camera's slowly creeping in. More often than not, they didn't use a dolly on the day, or they didn't zoom through the camera because they wanted a clean version of it. And they leave it up to the editors to decide how much of a push-in do you do, how slow, and how precise. The other thing you can do is on this push-in, it starts here, and then it ends over here, and I'll make it even bigger so it's extra dramatic and obvious. These last 2 keyframes, it means that when it gets there, it's going to stop like quickly, automatically. It's going to go from motion to absolute stillness. So what I like to do is grab these last 2 keyframes for both position and scale, right click, and I will ease in. meaning it's going to land softly, meaning the camera's going to slow down and then land there. And I'll show you that difference. And it's cool because it feels like a camera motion someone's controlling as opposed to a digital. So it moves in, and it slowly lands on the close-up of his face, and there is no herky-jerkiness. So that's super important in terms of like applying that. And you can use that on backdrops. You can use that all the time on establishing shots. We've used so many times a picture of a house, an actual still image of a house, and then you zoom in on it, you put birds chirping in the background, and then you have your establishing shot of a house somewhere in the desert or wherever in the fields. Under my effects here, the other way to do it is I have created, and I think it's mentioned in the PDF and stuff. What I did was I took those manipulations and I just created presets to do it automatically and said, to hell with it, why don't I just make it easy on myself? So I created these Vashi Zoom plugins, and you can see here it's percentage-wise, 5%, 10, 15, 20, and 25. They are independent of, they will understand how long a clip is, and they will adjust for that. So this shot right here is 1, 2, it's again, I duplicated it and I didn't change anything yet, so there's no motion on it. So it's like 10 seconds. If I take 25 smooth and I just drag it on the front of the clip, it's going to start at 0 and it's going to push in 25% over the length of the clip, and it's going to land softly. So it's going to do that automatically on this shot without me having to do anything. And then that way I can just quickly apply these. And if you look at the motion, you can see it goes from 0 to 125 in the scale size right there. If this shot was shorter, then it would apply the same move, but over a lot quicker time. So let me delete it, and I'll just show you again because it's a short shot. Now if I do Vashi 25 smooth, now it goes from 0 to 25. You can see it up here a lot quicker. So these are little things I've made to help my job, and I just apply them as a preset. And it makes things a lot easier in terms of being able to manipulate footage, which is super critical when it's dealing with trying to make dramatic situations out of footage. An editor's job is problem solving. We're given shots, we're given pieces, and we have to try and push them all together and make them narratively work through by any means necessary. And there are lots of those little sneaky tricks that we use to do that. Getting to the end, we're going to hit on a couple more important things. But before that, same thing. There's a couple of things I've learned a lot, and these shareables will be in the PDF. But here's 6 don'ts of film editing while we're going at it. Don't be I wasn't allowed to swear, so you can make up any bad word and enter it in there. No one wants a blank around, and that's the truth. Like we really, being in a small space with the same people for 10 to 12 hours a day, it's a really hard task. So it's important to be polite and nice and try and get along. Don't assume a shot or cut won't work. I can't tell you how many times someone makes a suggestion, be it a director or someone else, and I'm like, nah, that'll never work. Trust me. I know better. Then I try it, and damned if it doesn't work, and it totally blows my expectations away. There is no rhyme or reason sometimes to these edits and how they work and how they don't work. So try everything. You're going to get credit for it anyways. So even if someone told you, you're like, well, I'm the editor, I did it, mine. Don't forget to save and back up your work often. Again, it has nothing to do with creativity, it has nothing to do with skill set. It's being just smart and being diligent in your process, being organized and making sure that your backups are there, because there's going to be crashes. There's going to be situations where things happen and they're out of our control, but if it's backed up, then big deal. No big deal. You can just restart. Don't get cocky when getting notes. When people get notes, they can react badly. And the sign of a professional editor versus an amateur editor is how they respond to notes. Oftentimes directors and producers can be very ruthless in their notes, and they're very callous and they're very to the point, and they're like, we just want this. That's okay. As a professional, you say, absolutely, let's apply those notes, because you're not going to win that battle. You're not going to say, no, I'm not going to do those notes. You won't get another job. Every editor I've known, you just have to eat it, apply the notes, and then if anything, have your version ready. When their notes don't work, you can say, well, actually, I have another version here if you want to take a look at that as an option. Then you're still solving the problem, but you always have to do the notes from the studio, from the director, from the people. Always do them. Number 5, don't always try the same approach. On different projects, I'll try different approaches. I couldn't have gotten to the pancake timeline system with the markers and the chem rolls and the stacked timelines. I couldn't have done that unless I had seen it somewhere else, then tried to reverse engineer it and improve it. And I feel that I have, because I now have a coherent, cohesive system that I can tackle any project and have a blast. 6, don't forget to have fun. We will all go crazy if we don't have fun. Fun can be whatever it is. A double vodka at the end of the day, playing Frisbee at lunch, I don't know, playing pranks on your fellow team members. I love that. So make sure you're having fun and provide an environment that is conducive to good work and conducive to wanting to come back to that environment, because we're going to be on projects every day, every day, every day. The last couple things I want to talk about are deliverables and some of the deliverables and the, what do you want to call it? Master files and whatnot. For a project, you have to make these master files at the end, and they are all contingent on these deliverables on matching specs for delivery. For example, Netflix has a 70-page PDF where it talks you through every deliverable that is needed for an original show. The format is intense. It's 70 pages. The editor and the assistant have to create that. So what we did on our film 6 Below, we had to create 17 deliverables. These are the deliverables, so we made presets for Adobe Media Encoder that would do it automatically. So every time we had to create a deliverable, we had a preset made, which saved us so much time, because you know how hard it is if you open something up and you're like, all right, let's make, whatever. And if the specs are wrong, you're terrible. And it'll get kicked back and you'll have to do it again. So our specs are provided there. You can go to Netflix and look for their deliverables PDF. It's insane. And it'll teach you and show you how intense and how important that component of the job is. When we're talking about turnovers, which is giving audio to the audio team, the easiest way and basically the only way that you need to worry about is, let me take you to anything that has audio work. So I have, a couple of shots here. All you have to do is, with your sequence highlighted, you only have to file, export, AAF. Anytime you have a sequence that you're ready to turn over to audio, hand over an AAF. It's going to look at your project. You can either mix down video or send them a separate video file, so I won't do that. We want to enable breakout to mono. I'll show you my settings that I use all the time and why. Render audio clip effects. I turn this on because if I've added reverb, delay, whatever, I want to give the musical team or the music sonic squad an option to listen to what I thought might be good. They will replace it with their own, but they need to hear that. So by clicking this, I'll render it audio and also include the copies without effects. They have a dry version that they can do their professional effects on if they don't like mine. So enable breakout to mono, render audio clip effects, include clip copies. Sample rate, 4800, great. 9600 if you're feeling jumpy or you want higher sample rate. 48,000 is fine. Bits per, I use 24 bits per sample for myself, and I always use embed audio, so it comes in one file, everything is in there. Format, always use broadcast wave. Some Pro Tools systems won't even accept AIFF depending on their year. Always use broadcast waves, and always use copy complete audio files. This means that you don't have to worry about handles where someone's getting only 10 extra frames. If you use an audio file, that audio file in its fullest, longest term will be passed over. So if you have dialogue, the entire take will be sent over. If you have a song and you only use 10 seconds of it, the entire song goes over. You want to give the audio team the most options for their part of the job as possible. So this is how you would turn over any audio on any project to anyone using Pro Tools or any other audio system. These are the settings I use. They haven't failed me. Super simple, but if you haven't been walked through, it's easy to make a mistake. So screen cap this or look at the document later, but that's what I use. And in terms of video, we have the presets previously that I showed you. That's the Jimmy Jam on those. It's just a matter of creating these presets and using them down the road. To get to the end, here's a couple things. Again, you can read them on your own, but over 20 years in Hollywood, there's always lessons to be learned. There's always things that, again, are not dealing with creative responsibilities or technical responsibilities. It's about just how you approach the job. And if you want to get hired again, these are some really good tips. If you want to work with people and have them like you, these are some good tips. And they're earned and learned because I made the mistakes of going the other way from these tips. So, I'll just go through it first, quickly. Think team first, individual second. We all want to be the superstar, but it's more productive to do your job and do it well and stick to that. Be proactive in your tasks. If you finish a job, don't sit there and just start twiddling your thumb and going on Twitter. See if you can get ahead of your next task. See if you can prep something for your editor. If you're an editor, see if you can start cutting a new scene, even though you don't have to start it till later. Just jump on it. Don't burn your bridges. Very small town. Hollywood's a very small town. Word gets out very quickly about who's nice, who's not, why, horror stories. We all know someone. And hey, if you want to roll the dice and take that chance of not getting hired, that's on you. Triple check your work. I've been burned so many times I don't even want to think about it, where quality control is so critical. You don't pass something on to your director until you've checked it 3 times. If there's a mistake, that's on you, and that's unprofessional. I've learned the hard way. I won't bore you with details now, but I've been burned, and I made it a point to never, ever, ever make those mistakes again. Bottom line, I sent a Blu-ray to a film festival for my director, and I had to hit the deadline for FedEx. I hit the deadline, but I never checked the Blu-ray. It was a burner. It didn't play. So they fired it in at the film festival, and it didn't play. He had to show a cut from a week before instead of the final version that we spent a week on. So yeah, triple check your work. Good advice. Pick your battles. If you're going to have an issue with someone, or you're going to have, you want to go at someone, pick your battles. Like, it doesn't have to be all the time, but just know there's going to be repercussions. And if you're right or wrong, there's going to be a stink in the room. Speaking of the room, take the temperature of the room. If you have a request or a demand, or you have something you want to ask someone, make sure that everyone's in a good state of mind. You don't want to add fuel to the fire. If someone's having a meltdown, that's not the time to go over there and say, hey, you know what? I want a raise and I want this weekend off, and I don't want to come in until 10 in the morning. Not the right time. Follow the chain of command. Super important. Everyone does have a role. Stay within your lane. You are going to be much more respected if you do your job great and awesomely, and follow the chain of command and just stay and just be the master of your position and be the best you can be. Once you start trying to skip people and ask for things that are not right, that you're going to get a bad name in the industry. Approach challenges from new angles. Again, super critical in terms of look at things in new lights. Look at things, approach it in the ways you haven't before. If you always do the same thing, there'll never be a chance to evolve who you are as an editor or as a creative. So come at it differently. And good enough is not good enough. The only thing that constrains good enough is time. You have to budget your time. Again, being a professional is budgeting your time. And that's what you have to do to be able to present a cut, a clip, a shot, whatever you're doing, go the extra mile. Every director and producer expects an editor now to deliver a color graded sequence with good audio, clean dialogue, no clicks and pops. And those are the people that get hired. So at the highest level, that's what they expect. And if that's an eye opener, then it is asking a lot. You have to get your skill set up. You have to really work at making yourself a complete creative individual. Learn new software. Take some of these tips and tricks that I've shared with you, that I've spent over 20 years gathering up. If you go to, once we're done, this is the website for the PDF that has everything I talked about today and probably, 30 times more. It's literally a compilation of everything I've learned and put it down to 70 pages in a PDF. So that's where you'd go download it to dig deeper and keep as a reference, because I've said a lot in the last hour and a half. My brain is melting, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed it and you learned some stuff and learned from my experiences. But that's like a quick overview of some of the most important things, especially with Premiere Pro inside Hollywood pipelines, the most important things that we do, the approaches, and the tips and tricks I've learned after being burned by doing it other ways. I want to be the most efficient. I want to be the most problem solving and the most creative editor and storyteller, and these things really do help.